In this video, I'm going to talk about extreme macro photography. Hello, my name's Stewart Wood and welcome to my YouTube channel. Now in this video, we're going to be photographing some spiders' eyes, but let's begin with the bad news. Now anyone who follows me on social media will know that Doris passed away about a week ago. Now what people don't know is a couple of days ago, Fidget passed away. Now unfortunately, when it comes to Doris was a bit of a surprise. I didn't know that she was going to die, okay? But with Fidget, I kind of knew he was because he looked like he had been battered. He's missing a leg, he's missing a petapulp on the front of him, and he just stopped eating altogether. And I don't know why, but sometimes, you know, in the jumping spider pet community, this type of thing does happen. And they live very short lives, and it's just something you have to live with. So in the case of Fidget, I knew that was going to happen because although he lives on his own, he looked like he'd been beaten up. I don't know how that happened. I don't know if he got caught in his web and pulled his legs off or what. I have no idea. But that did happen. Doris was a bit surprised, a bit unfortunate. But it does mean we get to photograph them now really, really close up. Okay? So, on the desk here, I have my extreme macro setup. Okay, I'm going to be assembling it while I'm talking to you and bring you on some updates, okay? First thing I want to note is I will be using the Ulrik lens. This is the first time I've used this for this type of extreme close-up, okay? I'm going to take the battery pack off because we don't need that for this particular shoot because we're going to be using this wee macro rail. I will talk about that more as we set it up. But anyway, so the last few weeks I've been a little bit quiet because they've been a bit stressful, I'll be honest with you. So anyone who knows me will know that I went on holiday for a couple of days. In fact, it was the day Doris died that I went on holiday, so I was a bit of a downer already. We went to a John Fowler's holiday camp, and it looked more like a concentration camp. There was no entertainment for the kids, and I went down there on the purpose of, on one of the days, to go down the beach and record a macro adventure on the beach, but the kids were that bored, they started playing up because there was nothing for them to do. So what I decided to do was put off that video. We'll do a beach one, say, next year sometime in the summer, and I just spent time with the kids instead, went swimming with them instead, because family does come first for me, okay? So that's why that didn't happen. Then immediately getting home, the car broke down. Okay, I'm happy to say I fixed it. It was a relatively cheap fix, but unfortunately it took a while to do, which is why there wasn't a video last week, okay? And then I intended, well, last week I did intend to do the Ulrik's review, but obviously the car broke down. This week, well, yesterday I intended to do that review, but then my son had an accident at school. So it seems like every time I want to do a review of this lens, put that video out, something happens and prevents me. So for this video, we're not going to do a review of it. Let's try and do that next week if we can. Hopefully, fingers crossed, nothing breaks. Okay, so for anyone who's been watching the channel, no decision has been made on a upgrade for the 650D yet. I'm contemplating jumping to full frame. Anyway, let's go on to this one. So we have Doris and Fidget just here. Okay, so they're in their spider death curl. Basically, when a spider dies, it jumps on its back and all its legs pop up like that. Not a pleasant sight when you wake up in the morning to find. Okay, I'm going to put my camera over here. I have a sense I'm going to need a bigger desk. Now let's go on to the main piece of equipment we're going to use. This is a wee macro rail. Now do you remember the photo stacking one I did where I had the little rail that really sucked off eBay? Basically this is an expensive motorized version of that rail, and you can control it with your mobile phone, which is very useful. So that is what we're going to be using today. Now normally I would attach this to my camera. This is a microscope objective lens. This is a 10 times microscope objective lens. We're not going to use that in this video because I think it's too much of a jump up for the people following at home to follow along, having to go and get this. So we're going to use the Ulrik lens, okay? If you do want to see some 10 times extreme macro photography, let me know in the comments below and we'll see what we can do. Now, do you remember at the beginning of the year I had a big ant and some butterflies that I said I was going to do extreme macro photography with. And the reason I haven't done that is because when I'm lighting my extreme macro, I'm using the video lights. So this camera physically cannot capture me in this dark room without those lights. So, you know, your video would be black, basically. But as you know, we have the Adaptalux system here for review, and I'm going to use this to light my extreme macro shot. So now I can finally show you this rail in action. Let's set it up. Right, so the first thing we have to consider when setting this up is our magnification. What do we need to capture those two big front eyes? And I want them like that, so it's right up close. What I'm going to do here, I'm just going to get Doris, she's still on her back, and I'm going to look through my viewfinder to find out exactly how many extension tubes we require. So we have our full set of extension tubes, so what we're going to do is find out how much extension tubes we are going to need for this shot. With my shaky hands. So we need to get in a lot closer. So first of all, let's try our extension tubes. So let's put on 65mm of extension tubes. Again, we're going to lose light as well when we use this. Let's see what that shows us. Okay, so we will have to crop in a little bit. Now I have a Rhinox DCR 250, but this doesn't work with this lens. I believe it's because you got to step down the filter to get it to attach, because it only fits up to 67mm, whereas this is 77. Plus then with that lens being so small, you get a weird like 70s porno vibe coming from the lens. So we're not going to use that. But I just thought I'd mention it just in case you're thinking, well, why don't you slap that on to get closer? It's not going to work in this instance. Okay, so now we know what we've got to use is all extension tubes. If you've got extra extension tubes, it might be helpful. Okay, so there comes the hardest part of this shoot, and that's getting this little thread here through there and into our camera, and it is a hard job to do. We have our rail. We then have a control box, and just so you know, there are holes on the bottom of this rail so that you can put it onto a tripod. In fact, I've done that a few times for some product shots, so I could just slide it from left to right, and it works okay. I'd rather have a bigger slider for that though, to be honest with you. So this rail is an automated photo stacking rail. It means that the rail will move forward, it will take a shot with the camera and then move forward again. This rail is great for doing extreme close-ups of subjects. I'd say it probably takes longer to set the thing up than it does to actually photograph the subject you're doing. So the next thing we want is this wire. This is our shutter release, because the control box will control the camera. So what happens is once you program it, the slider will move forward. It'll take a picture, move forward, take a picture, and you can set it up to take a lot of pictures. So we need that plugging into the shutter release there. And this is another factor when I'm deciding on what camera to go with. For instance, if I was to go with the Canon 5D Mark IV, which is the full frame camera, you see this cable here won't work with that camera. However, I do believe it works with the EOS R. Another tick mark, the EOS R. As well as all my old lenses work with the EOS R as well. So EOS R is looking nice at the moment, as well as the Canon 90D. And I'll be honest with you right now, when it comes to the photography side, both cameras are going to be good. So I have my backgrounds all ready to go. Check the website if you want to have a look at those backgrounds. And people have been asking, am I going to be selling physical copies of these? Now originally I wasn't going to, because I didn't think people would be interested, but I've had a lot of requests for it. I am in the middle of producing a beta version of these, because they don't last very long. You just print them out again, you're perfectly okay. But if I'm going to be sending out physical ones, I want them to be really, really robust so that you can keep them for a very long time. But it's another way that you can support the channel if you want to. So keep an eye on the website and the channel for when those are available. Right, so we're almost ready to set up our subject. So now with having the camera set up, we know how high we need to be for our subject. And unfortunately, our specimen holder is a little bit too high. Let's throw that out the way. And I would say these are almost the perfect height. So what we want now is a little needle. Okay, so let's just put that there. A little cup. Okay, this is just a little plastic white cup. And one of the most important things is this. This is plasticine. Okay, that's what it's known in the UK. I believe in America it's known as modelling clay. It's the little modelling clay that you can get for your kids, and they make little characters out of it. This stuff is great for adjusting the height or putting your subject on. Now, if you get really serious into the extreme macro, you can get little adjustable macro tables. It comes forward, backwards, left, right. I would suggest you get one of those. But for this purpose, plasticine is going to be just fine. Okay. Okay, I'll explain what the cup's for in a minute when we go into the lighting. The first thing we need to do is to set up this bad boy. The Remacro comes with an app. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail on this. We have different settings that I find work for me. And at the moment, all I want to do is to pull the camera back into the middle of the rail, because we're all the way over to the edge. I think I was filming product photography last time. Next thing we need to do is to get our spider onto our needle, and this is the part where you have to decide if you want to keep your spider or not, because a lot of pet owners, they dry out the spiders and then have them on display, or you can also put them in resin and keep them. I'm not sentimental, so I'll just jab a needle straight in. Okay, so the memo clip holder, I'm just going to put the plasticine around it, because the grip itself will tighten up over time, and that will adjust the position of the spider while we're taking our photos, so we don't want that. Now I can take my spider, who is currently impaled, and place it into the modelling clay. Here's a useful thing on Canon cameras. We can flip that screen out. I can go into live view now and check the position. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get all that set up, because it can take a little time, and we'll skip to that when I'm done, and we'll be all lined up and ready to set up the lights. If you can see on the video, on her right eye, there's little bits of grains of what appears to be sand. Okay, they're too small to be mites. Okay, but there's little bits of, I think it's grains of sand. And it's at this point you need to decide, do you want to take those off now or do it in post? And they are that small, I physically cannot see them. I mean, this is the end of a pencil. So I'm going to opt to take those out in post. So I need to set up my Adaptalux system now. And for this, we want the two white arms. Now let's plug these in. And because I wanted to play with the different diffusers, I ordered different levels of diffusion, and that's not what I want for this image. So that's what this cup is going to be for. Let's place it underneath our camera. I really wish the arms would stay in place a little bit more than what they do. Can you see it's bouncing back? Yeah. But again, I'm only doing this as a demonstration because I do use the video lights when doing extreme macro. Okay, so let's turn the camera back on because it's shut off. Okay, so that's what we got so far. Now this is where the cup comes in handy, okay? So what I'm going to do is cut a section out of the cup. Okay. That section is for our lens to see through. So if I just place this in front of the lights now, you're going to see that nice diffusion. Can you see that? If you look at the eyes, you see that? Just looks a little bit better. Now the other thing I like to do is I like to have control over my background. I'm going to cut a hole in the other side of this cup so that we have an option to change the background. Okay, let's place clips on these. Like that. Okay. And then, in theory, if we have done that right, we should be able to place a background of our choice into the background, which is working brilliantly. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to go with that one. This is the dark blue with little specks of purple. Again, you can get these off my website, okay? The digital download, because the physical ones aren't ready yet. If you are waiting for the physical copies, then let me know in the comments, and it will inspire me to get them done a little bit quicker. Okay, so let's place that now. Right there. There we go. Beautiful. Look at that. Beautiful. There's probably people watching this going, you're doing it all wrong, right? I don't do much of this. This is just something I bought to have a play with when I was going through my depression. I don't know if, well, the new viewers probably don't know that, but I did suffer from depression a few years ago, and macro photography is what's brought me out of my depression. And I bought this, and I was like, well, it's getting a bit complicated because I've got to buy this and I've got to buy that lens and this thing, and I just didn't bother in the end. But people wanted to know how to do it, so this is why I'm doing this video, okay? Now, while on the subject, don't go out and kill insects to get this type of image. You don't need to do that. You can find dead insects lying around and take pictures of them just as good, okay? I don't want the ISO to be on 12,800. On a 650D, you'd see more snow than anything else. Let's bring that down. And I want an f16. I think f16 on this lens is absolutely fantastic. It really is. Okay, and now obviously I'm going to use my camera's meter to get the shutter speed that's required. That's a shutter speed of about 2.5 seconds. Now for me, on this setup, it's too slow because it's very bouncy. Now, when I'm doing this with no cameras running, I go downstairs and I put it on the concrete floor. It gives me much better results. Now for this, I'm going to pop up to, let's go to ISO 400. Okay. Meter again. And we are now getting half a second. That's much better for this situation, because if anyone comes up the stairs, it will shake the camera. Okay, so I'm underexposing by 1 stop, just to try and keep that shutter speed down a little bit. Let's bring the background back in, all the way in if we can, without getting the shadow on the background, because we don't want the shadow. We're at half a second on the exposure. Okay, that looks good. And now it's crunch time. Okay, so what we want to do here is we are on slow. Now I'm just going to throw out the settings for this, okay? To get the settings right, we needed interval of shutters 3. So in between the shutter clicks, it waits 3 seconds. So we're going to move the rail, wait 3 seconds for vibration to come down. It's going to hit the shutter once, the mirror's going to lock up. It's going to wait 3 seconds. It's then going to hit the shutter again to take the picture. And that's my settings I'm using. We're at 100 UM on the step length. So what we've got to do now is set up our in and out points. What I want to do now is set the camera to the start position, which is the start position is going to be just forward of when the actual hairs come into focus. I'm going to click as start. I'm then going to move it forward. And we want to set the end position, and the end position is going to be a little bit further back than the eyes that are on the side of its head or the hairs. So I'm looking at the hairs, and we wait till they go out of focus, go a little bit further, and then click as end. Now, the important thing on here is to not have too many specular highlights if you can help it, because if you do, Because if you do, the software thinks that specular highlights are in focus pixels and layers them on top of each other. So if you do get specular highlights, we're going to have 70 specular highlights layered on top of each other, which is why you really need to get your light really, really diffused. And I struggle a lot with that. Never used the Adaptalux system for this yet, but we are about to find out if it works. We have Doris set up in the middle of the frame because we are going to crop in. Again, a higher megapixel camera is going to result in a better image. Okay, we're using the 650D. Another reason why I'm looking to upgrade. But now when I click run, we should run through that sequence. It should move forward, wait 3 seconds, lock up the mirror, wait 3 seconds, take the image. Okay, and during this process I cannot move, so I will put in some B-roll and we'll skip to the end result. That's it. That is now done. All we got to do now is focus stack all these images together just like we did in the previous videos. Let's address the elephant in the room. This is one of those cases where equipment does matter. Megapixels matter. The lens you choose matters. I mean, some of the Nikon microscope lenses are absolutely fantastic at doing this type of macro photography. It's a whole different animal compared to the usual macro photography, and it's called extreme macro photography for a reason, because it is extreme. Okay, here are some examples of extreme macro photography. These examples have come from members of the Facebook group The Macro World, and they are a lot better at doing this type of photography than I am. And I'm not going to bore you with the processing of these. However, if you do want to see a video on me processing these images, let me know in the comments below and I'll see if I can sort that out for you. So that is the spider's eyes, a close-up extreme-ish type of macro photography. Again, if you want to see more extreme macro photography using the microscope objective lens, then let me know in the comments below. We'll see if we can get some of that done over the winter, since I'm not going to be freezing my butt off doing macro adventures in the snow. Okay, so to recap again, I haven't made a decision on a camera yet, but I would like to thank Canon. They have been chatting to me on Twitter about the different features of the 90D and the EOS R. Links to everything I've used in this video are in the description below. And again, I want to thank you for getting to the end of the video. My name's Stewart Wood. I'll see you on the next video. Now, do you remember at the beginning of the year I had a big ant and some butterflies that I said I was going to do extreme macro photography with? I didn't charge the Adaptalux, did I? The full frame camera. So this lens, I was about to do something, yes. And in this video, we shall take out all of my credit cards before showing you the phone. Okay? Okay. Go into live view. Would do if I was on manual. Now, if we've set everything up correctly, which most of the time I don't, when we click run, we should be taking 5,000 images.